And now I can sit with you and I can hear what you really mean. And I can sit the way you're sitting. Some would say that this is a very defensive stance.
This is ex-wrestler over here. You know what I mean? Hello and welcome to season 2 of the HighSobriety podcast. I'm your host, Matt Busbridge, and today we are joined by Johnny Lawrence. Johnny, welcome to HighSobriety.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm alright.
Brilliant. I'm so hot for some reason. Just started sweating out. Johnny, are you able to give a bit of a brief background about you, the podcast, just so our viewers and listeners can know a bit more about you?
Yeah, as you said, my name is Johnny Lawrence. I'm better known these days as a self-development coach, and that's because I have dedicated as much of my life as I can to helping people with their self-development. And what that means is I help people go from where they are now to where they'd like to be in the future. Now, that sounds really easy, right? But it's a pretty complicated process. Yeah. And as a coach, I help them in 2 ways. I believe that when education meets experience, it creates wisdom. And my education is that I'm educated in health science, I'm educated in behavioural change, I'm educated in counselling, in psychology. But it's really those experiences that I've had that sort of flavours the way that I help people. It fills that empathy bucket. It helps me understand how people really think and really feel. Quite often I'll be sat there listening to people, which is the main part of my job. I'm not there to give advice. I might offer perspectives or stories, but I'm never there to give advice because I don't believe I'm arrogant enough to have the solutions to other people's problems. And I'm listening, and I'm listening for what they're not saying. I'm listening for where they're pausing. I'm listening for, where they might clear their throat, or they might, sit quietly, or the nervous giggle, or the nervous.
Are you doing this to me now?
I've had this conversation with people before, and it's like changing.
I'm not going to start sitting like this. You can't read shit.
And that helps me. Unfortunately. As a child, I was subjected to a lot of physical abuse, and I had to witness a lot of domestic violence. I had to see things done to my brothers and my sister and my mother, and that creates a hypervigilance and an empathy that really felt like a curse at the time because I was feeling it all. It was horrible, But now I look at it more like a superpower, which sounds really arrogant, but I don't mean I'm a superhero. What I mean is that I can do all those things. I can hear it, I can feel it, I can absorb it, I can hold that space for you. Quite often I'll have people come along and I'll hold that space for them while they organise their mind, they organise their thoughts. And that comes from my trauma, and we were speaking earlier, weren't we? And I was saying, those things that happened to us that were awful, that were terrible, that we wish never happened to us, actually, when the time's right, there's an opportunity to look and see what you've learned from it, that post-traumatic growth, which is, like I said to you before, you can't say that to someone when it first happens because that might get you punched in the face. But yeah, my job is to help people move forward, is to help them develop themselves. And there's a lot within that people want to avoid.
Yeah, of course. Do you think it's I do think there's sometimes with therapists and stuff, not like that it's a bonus, but I feel like when people are talking to you or, like you said, you're sort of trying to help people with their self-development, does it help in certain circumstances that you've been through trauma yourself?
I don't think it's necessary because there's thankfully going to be a lot of therapists or people that help other people that haven't been through trauma. I can only really speak of my own experience. And when someone has a really unpleasant mental health experience, they experience trauma. Having been through my trauma, like if say I was going to help you with alcohol, right? Yeah. I've had my own experience with alcohol, but that is my experience. That's not yours. So the things that you do to help yourself are not going to be the same as what.
No, of course.
They can't be. It's impossible. You've got a different life to me completely. And there's so many different factors that are involved in that are going to change the way that outcome. For a fact that we, I'm black, you're white. That's a difference, right? And you grew up in a certain area, I grew up in a certain area, and all of these things have a different. You've got different parents, you've got different siblings, you've got different friends. All of these things make a difference, and they change things. So for me to be able to give you advice on that would be really bad.
No, but it's just, I don't know, like I find maybe people who have been through certain situations, they might have like a broader outlook on certain individuals' wants and needs, whereas someone who's just learnt through textbooks.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
No, I think what it comes down to is the reality of it. It's really understanding, really understanding how it must have felt to go through an experience like that. And that's where I think that training comes in, but also that experience. Because when people say stuff, unhelpful stuff maybe, like, oh, I'm sure it'll be okay, things like that, that's anxiety talking. They don't know what to do. They're hearing something and they're like, oh my God, that's really awful. You're making me feel uncomfortable. And actually, you might even find that when you're talking to somebody, that their discomfort, you're then trying to make them feel better. Because it's an awful thing for them to hear because they've never been through anything like that. But yeah, it does. For me, it helps. It helps me understand people on a level that maybe they've never been understood before. If I was ever going to say I was good at anything, I'm good at translating how people feel. I was at a conference a little while ago and I was doing like a little meet and greet afterwards. And somebody said to me, you articulated how I didn't know I felt. And what that means is that I provided a language for a way that they felt that they didn't know they felt. And it's that language, because when you have that language, you're able to communicate it, right? I'm then able to tell you how I feel and for you to understand because I provided a language, or at least I provided a baseline for that language so that they can then keep talking and go through therapy. Because in therapy or in coaching, when you're having those conversations, you are organising your mind. That's what we're doing, that's what conversation is. So when we, that's why it's so important for somebody to have somebody to talk to. And when we don't have people to talk to, we've got our own mind and we're rationalising our own thoughts in the same mood that we're in, and it starts to create
for sure.
and conflict. Which you don't want.
No, that's very true, because I think sometimes when I go and do my therapy, she outlines certain ways in which I could see things differently, and it all sort of starts to make sense. You can put like two and two together and you're like, oh, so that's why relationships I would go in as like a rescuer and I just want to save people all the time. But at the time you're doing it, you're just thinking you're just being a good guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, that can really damage you from doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you continuously needing to save everyone, but you're not saving yourself.
The thing is, right, we have thoughts in our head and it's our voice, but we also are the ones listening. So actually, everything in life is about us. Now, someone might call that narcissistic, but it is true. Like, everything is about you. The way that you formulate the world, the way that you look at the world is based on how you feel about things, based on what you think is true and what you think is your values. So when we are having these conversations, you might tell me something and I'll see it through my lens, not yours.
Of course.
That's what I'm training to do all the time. That's why it's important to have that education. So that I can really hear you and not make it about me. So when you're telling me your experiences, I'm listening to it as you're saying it, trying to experience it your way. Because I might have an emotion, you might say something to me, and I might have an emotional reaction to that. But how do I know it's an emotional reaction to what you're saying, not how I'm feeling about what you're saying? Because then I make it about me. So it's important to be able to have that determination between the two.
For sure. How is your relationship with alcohol?
Now,
in general, how was it?
My relationship with alcohol, well, as I said, I had a really, really traumatic childhood, and I had to witness a lot of domestic violence and I had a lot of physical abuse, and consequently that led to issues around addiction. And there were two main events in my life where addiction rose to the surface. My mum and dad didn't drink, so I can't blame them for it. I was never around it or anything like that. But there was an altercation at my house, and my brother was getting beaten by my father, and my mum was shielding him. And I'd just come home from work, and I walked through the door and saw this going on, and it was an instinctive reaction, and I jumped between the two, and I sort of pushed him, and he went flying across the room. And my mum was like looking, thinking, what's going to happen here? And nothing happened. It's the truth. He walked up to me. He realised I was a little bit bigger than I was when I was a child. And he walked away, laughing, smiling, in fact. And in that moment, we decided that it would probably be best for me to move out. So I moved out, ended up living on my own. And for the first time in my life, I'm experiencing loneliness. I can't say I was missing the trauma and all of the things going on home. I was missing my family. And that led to me going down to the off licence one night, not necessarily for alcohol. It's probably going down there for some sweets or something. And I just thought, why not? And I bought some beers, and that was the first time in my life that I didn't feel lonely. And I sat there that evening drinking, and you know, as I said to you before, if you understand, you understand. If you don't, you don't. But it felt like I'd made a friend.
Yeah.
I wasn't lonely anymore. Fast forward, I meet my wife, and it wasn't until the second event where it really escalated, and my wife gave birth to her first son. And I watched the whole thing. It was beautiful. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever had to witness, what I got the pleasure of witnessing. And I cut the umbilical cord, and they handed me my son. And it was a really beautiful moment. And I was hit with this overwhelming feeling of love. It really was the most overwhelming feeling of love I've ever experienced. I felt like I was the protector. I was the person that was going to, you know, I was making all these promises in my mind that I was going to be this dad and all these different things. But at the same time, you know, I'd never been a father before, and I'd always looked at it through the son's eyes. You know, my father did these things, why did he do them to me? But now all of a sudden I'm like, how? He must have felt this love too. He must have felt this way too. How can he do these things? And it was like this psychological unraveling, this malfunction. And alcohol helped. So I started drinking, and it helps numb the pain. It helped me be able to function and be there for my wife, who obviously needed me.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's when it escalated and became quite a problem.
Because I suppose it's kind of a contrast, because, you know, obviously I don't know your ins and outs, but from what you've told me, someone who's got a child and they went through all that as a child and sort of into a teenager, like in some circumstances you'd think that the alcohol, you'd want to cut that out as soon as the child was there, because it's like, I don't want to be making the same mistakes or even causing any harm to my kid or making any mistakes with him, because I don't want him to go through obviously you wouldn't do the same degree, but just small mistakes, like if you've had a drink and something happens, and I don't know, like how was that contrast in your mind when you thought about that?
I can't say that I was ever irresponsible.
No.
When it came to being a parent, like I would never just have the baby crying whilst I was drinking. At that point, I was never really choosing the alcohol over my son or my sons or my wife. It was more like when they'd gone to bed and everything was settled. It was like, that was when I sort of, almost like a soap opera. It's like when I caught up with my trauma, so I could sit down and drink until 3 o'clock in the morning, you know. And it was you can't do anything about it. It's there. The trauma's there. You know, so I was trying to process it, or at least that's what I thought I was doing, but I wasn't. I was just ruminating. I was just ruminating, picking the scab, making it worse every single time. And for me, alcohol helped with that. Is it the best solution? No, it wasn't. It wasn't the best solution. And thankfully, I've been sober for over 3 years now. At the time, it helped me numb out the pain, the emotional pain. It was helpful. That's the bit that people don't want to face when it comes to alcohol. People don't want to face the fact that it does work. You know, is it the best solution? Absolutely not. No, and I'm happily sober. But at the time, it works, and that's where you find that compassion for yourself. Like you might look back with lots of regrets of all the things you did, but you've got to be compassionate, man.
Yeah, of course.
You were in pain.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know your story, but what is your story?
My story was, I found alcohol as just sort of an outlook for me, and it was just, I think sometimes it could have just been down to boredom. It could have been, like you said, I could have made plans with someone, and if someone then let me down last minute, I'd go and drink. If relationships, I didn't know how to talk to people, I couldn't communicate with my partners, I was like low, I was very depressed, I wasn't happy in who I was. I've spoken about this before, but I was quite a big kid when I was younger, and that went into my teenage years, and it really like knocked my confidence. And I think alcohol gave me that extra oomph. Do you know what I mean? I became this, like, it was like a fucking Popeye when he drinks spinach. Like I'd drink a drink, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I feel sexy, and I'm going to do a line now, and I feel really good. I can talk to everyone. But that, like you said, it catches up to you. And then I was with my last partner, and the only times we'd argue was because of alcohol. And then we had a massive bust up on my birthday, and I said to her, the next day, because I went back to hers with a towel between my legs and I said, look, I'm going to stop. I love you. Like, I need to stop for myself. I need to stop to make this relationship work. And then I just completely cut it all out. Then didn't go to any meetings, which I kind of wish I did now.
What makes you think that?
Because it's the social anxiety I get, and the fact that I feel really lonely, mate. Like, the loneliness really does me in. Like, the fact that I sit there and you know, sitting in your own thoughts is quite a healthy thing to do sometimes, because you analyse and you go through things like we just said. But there's elements of that, and I kind of feel that I don't really know what I'm meant to be doing now. Like, it's as if I've just got this key, but I don't know what door it goes in, and I don't know what. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what's on the other side. So I'm continuously every day trying different locks.
What do you think? Do you think you're avoiding something?
Sometimes I don't know who I am.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I've honestly feel that, because I went through all those years of drinking and doing drugs because I didn't want to know who that person was, that big fat kid who I used to be. And I kind of missed these massive stages of my life in these years. And now I've come out of it, and I'm like, well, who is this? That obviously I'm still not that teenager. So who is this guy grown up to? And obviously in the job I do, you're continuously having to wear different masks all the time. And so you just get eaten up into it.
This is a massive thing in sobriety, especially when we stop. I mean, we spoke earlier about it, but I'm a coach, but what I am above anything else is a truth seeker. And the thing is, sometimes things are so difficult, so painful, so we don't want them to be true so much that we have to create a narrative that we can accept. And sometimes that means wearing different faces, different acts, putting on different things. Like I've got this thing called the 3 stages of self. And I believe that we exist at all times in 3 states. One of those states is the person we want to be in the future, right? So that's our values, that I want to be someone who's got integrity. I want to be someone who's hardworking. I want to be someone that's present for my kids and the family man, all these different things, right? And I'm always trying to work towards that all the time, but that's the person I am in the future. That's my values driving me, directing me, my moral compass saying go that way. And then there's the person that you are for everybody else. You know, so with the best one in the world, you're going to be somebody's son. You might be someone's brother. You're someone's friend. You're someone's employee. You're someone's employer. In your job, you're probably lots of things to lots of people. And you show up with your behaviour in a certain way, and they gratify that, which makes you want to do it more. You know, so there you have that relationship. So there's the person you want to be in the future. There's the person that you show up for everyone else. But then there's a third person. That's the person you are right now. And a lot of the time that gets neglected because you're trying to be that person in the future. That's not who I am right now. I want to be that person. Oh, I'm also got to show up for this person that way and be that person for this person and all that. And you end up neglecting the person you are now. And then that's when depression creeps in. You know, and you're anxious all the time. And you have to sell yourself a lie and a narrative to make yourself feel like you can carry on. You know, and this is what you're talking about in a sense, is that you're talking about the fact that you're lost and you don't know who you are. But at the same time, the only way you're going to find out is if you lean into it. But guess what you don't want to do? You don't want to lean into it.
I think it's true, and but I'm quite open to talk about my past, and I'm, you know, like you talk about the 4 A's, like I'm very aware and I'm very accepting of like who I was and what I was about and what I did, but I don't know. It's just I'm quite happy to talk about this, that, and the other, and you know, I went through this and hit this rock bottom, but I don't know what I am now. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just it's very hard for me, and the problem is that I don't want sobriety to like define that as well. Like, I don't want it just to be like, oh, Matt who's sober. Do you know what I mean? Because Matt who's sober was Matt before, but just got mixed up in a lot of emotions and, do you know what I mean, substances and stuff like that.
Well, you're always trying to be, you know, so like I said, your values will dictate who you want to be in the future, but there's 2 types of values. There's means values and ends values. End value is who you want to be, ultimately. This is the type of person I want to show up in the world. But the means values are the values that you're going to have to adopt to move towards that person. So if your value is, if your end value is love, then your means value will be building a relationship with somebody. Won't it? It'll be like having a girlfriend or family or a wife or whatever, you know. So the way to move towards who you are is to know what your values are, and then know what type of values you're going to have to adopt to get to that person. Who do you want to be in the future?
Yeah. No, it's true, because you end up, a lot of the times that I felt like that, it was external validation. It was other people telling me like, oh, you'd be a really good dad, or you'd make a good husband, or do you know what I mean? I think it was very much like that, and that's what I relied on. That's why I went from relationship to relationship, because I was just like, I need to be validated. I don't have anything else. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I would turn to drink and alcohol, because I didn't need that to give me sort of any answers, but I knew what the fix was going to be. Do you know what I mean? And how easy it was going to be. But I knew with alcohol and drugs, they're just going to agree to everything I do. There's going to be no argument. There's going to be no comeback. Do you know what I mean? So it was just like, I didn't need the validation from that. But in terms of relationships and stuff, yeah, it was just like, I admit it in the past that I was quite narcissistic with what I was doing, because it was just like, I couldn't see any wrong with what I was doing. And it was just like, in my head, it was like validated. It was, do you know what I mean? It was fine. But I don't know, like, I just was always externally sort of always wanting, like yearning for someone just to love me and just tell me that I don't know whether you're a good looking guy, or, because maybe I still had that mindset of a young, fat teenager.
Yeah. See, this is what I was saying. It's like, if the voice you hear in your head is yours and you're the one listening, maybe it's not other people's validation you're looking for, maybe it's yourself, you're right. So how do you validate yourself? What do you need from yourself? What do you want to be?
I think, I just want to be in this position now, in this fortunate position with this going on and stuff. I just want to help people. Do you know what I mean? I think that's my calling card, and that's what I strive and I love, and that validation I get from when I help someone. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's how I feel.
It's part of your identity.
Exactly.
It's part of your identity, which will feel really, really weird. It'll feel like you're pretending, but you're not.
It does.
You really are, And that's the part, like when we stop being sober, there's a void. There's a void. And the mistake that a lot of people make is they focus on the void. You can't not do something. If I tell you to not do something, what do you do then? You can't not do it.
Yeah.
So we're focusing on not drinking, and guess what? Drinking becomes the only thing they think about, which means inevitably we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So the trick to it is I want to be sober, I don't want to drink. Fine, I understand. But what do you want to do instead? And if you spend too much time not thinking about not drinking, then evidently that could only end one way. But what do you want to do instead? Well, you want to be a helper. How are you helping? Well, you're doing your podcast. You're doing it right now. Somewhere someone's hearing your story and they're saying, yeah, that's me. That's me. And they're seeing what you're doing is you're offering something that they've not got for a long time, which is hope. They're looking at you going, I could be like you one day.
Yeah.
Because he can do it, and he did the drugs, he did the alcohol, and he made the mistakes, he damaged the relationships, which we inevitably all do. And he's like, look at him now, he's doing all right. Will you do it again in the future? Yeah. The trick is not to be perfect, We're not perfect. Perfection's impossible. So we strive for it. We're striving for failure. Doesn't make sense.
No, that's true.
But we all do it.
I think sometimes the imperfections make the perfection, though. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
being able to see them imperfections perfectly.
Exactly.
That's what it's about.
But no, it's true. I think that's where I sort of the validation comes from. Is I do feel that I feel like I've got a purpose.
That's really important. So especially to men, purpose is one of the most important things to us. A reason. Why are we here? What are we doing here? That's motivation.
How was your support network though when you was growing up? Did you have any sort of support network at all? Like even when with the drinking and stuff, did you have anyone that you could sort of rely on or speak to, or did you feel very sort of like on your own with the whole situation?
I avoided, like I said, I sold myself a beautiful lie for a really long time. I avoided it. Like I said to you before, I went dairy free, I went caffeine free, I was doing all these different things trying to avoid the fact that I knew that I needed to go alcohol free. And that was what was stopping me. At first it was something that was helping, and then obviously very quickly it becomes something that becomes part of the problem. But like I said, I never had any problems with alcohol growing up. It wasn't around me, I wasn't doing it with my friends as much. It was only when I became a teenager and I was supposed to be an adult. And I was supposed to have a job, and I had my own place, and all of these pressures come in, and I didn't know how to do it. And that's when alcohol came in and helped. It made me just not care, make reckless decisions and then justify them.
Of course.
But it wasn't until I met a guy named Maliki, and interestingly enough, I had this period of time where I couldn't stand up, I couldn't sit down, I couldn't talk, couldn't be quiet, I felt like I couldn't be in my own skin. I felt like I was going crazy, and I knew something was really wrong. And I reached out to this chap and I saw him like every day for 2 weeks. And what was interesting is it wasn't for about a month that I walked into the room and I said, I think I've got a problem with alcohol. And he sort of smiled and he went, I'm glad you brought that up. He's been sort of patiently waiting for me to bring it up, And, I said to him, I think I need to stop drinking. He said, well, how do you feel about that? I said, I'm terrified. That's been my crux. That's been my crutch, for a lot of my life. That's the thing that I've relied upon. And now I'm talking about taking it away. And that scares the hell out of me. But it was around November time, and I said, I'll do it after Christmas. And he said, there'll always be a Christmas.
Yeah.
There'll always be a birthday. There'll always be a wedding or a holiday. But how does it feel to get to this time next year and have one Christmas under your belt? And what I realised over time, as I stopped drinking and I went sober, like I said, I was focusing on the void at the beginning. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to drink. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? All these worries and concerns. But what I realised after a little while is that I'd have these cravings. And I think it's really weird. I really want to drink. It's just come out of nowhere. But then through a process of therapy and looking into things and listening to myself, organising my thoughts, I realised that they were not cravings, they were reactions. So I might be in the kitchen and me and my wife are having a conversation and she says something and I experience the emotion of rejection. Then all of a sudden I want to drink.
Smart.
Now I want to drink alcohol because I don't know how to experience rejection.
Yeah.
And what I realised is that I didn't have an alcohol problem, I had an emotional regulation problem. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions without alcohol. And the interesting thing is, as you start to learn to regulate your emotions, you don't have to give up alcohol. It gives you up because it doesn't have a purpose anymore. It doesn't have a purpose. There's no need for it. It'd be like me eating a bag of Skittles. It's like nice, but it doesn't have any purpose. It doesn't give me anything. And that's what we have, these really heightened emotions. It was interesting to me when you said to me earlier that you would arrange to meet a friend and go out, and then they might say they're not coming out anymore, and then you get drunk.
That's it, yeah.
And that's interesting. That could be rejection. You could feel rejected and you don't know how to have that emotion, so you lean into the alcohol. Or you could have just been bored. But it's looking into that and realising that for a lot of people, we all collect trauma over our life, and that trauma comes with emotions. And those emotions are what triggers us to drink in some cases because we don't know how to have them. So I was having what I thought was a craving, but I wasn't. I was having a reaction.
That's so true, though. When you think about it in a logical way, most of the times when I would drink, like we were saying, it would be because of upset. It would be because something's happened, and it was I just didn't know how to deal with that situation, and the easiest route was just to have a drink. Like it was. But
emotions aren't just bad; they're good too, right? So a lot of the time in people's sobriety, it's not the person that passes away or the illness or the crashing of your car or whatever that catches you out. You kind of prepare for that. It's something bad. I really need to really bring all my tools in to stop myself from drinking. It's when someone comes home and they've passed their driving test, or you get a new job and you want to celebrate, and you have this emotion, of wanting to celebrate and being happy, and you don't know how to have that emotion.
Oh my God.
And a lot of time people get caught out. They say, I'm going to push the fucking button. And then they do, and then they drink, and then before you know it, they're back in where you was. So it's understanding that it's that emotion and that not knowing how to emotionally regulate. And what that means is, it's not like, most people think emotional regulation is like not having emotion. I don't want to be angry anymore. The thing is, if you're angry, you're angry. Telling yourself you're not angry when you are, it's just gaslighting yourself. Right? So it's about having that emotion, having that anger emotion, but having it in a healthy way. So instead of anger can go two directions, right? So anger is a good example because a lot of time around alcohol, there is anger. If you suppress anger, it will look two ways. It will be rage or depression. Rage is anger that's become out of control. So you drive into the supermarket, someone cuts you up and nicks your space, and you're ready to kill them.
Yeah.
That's not a normal reaction. Yes, be annoyed. Yes, think I'm an idiot, but don't want to kill them. You legit do.
Yeah.
You actually think,
see red.
I'm going to do something really bad.
Yeah.
And then the other one is that you withdraw. You know, you're angry, you don't feel like you're able to have that anger. So you withdraw and you have the anger with yourself and you become depressed and tell yourself horrible things, self-loathing, you're worthless, you're always different things and you're horrible to yourself. I'm a loser, look at my mate. You start to interpret the world through that lens. So anger is potentially not the emotion. Anger can be what's called a primary emotion, it can be a secondary emotion. A secondary emotion is a reaction. A secondary emotion is a reaction to a primary emotion. So you're having anger because maybe you feel helpless. So if, say, somebody that you really love is sick, God forbid, and you can't do anything about it, so you feel angry about that because you feel helpless. You know, and that's a secondary emotion to a primary emotion. But if you can not tell yourself you're angry, you know, you are angry, but it's a reaction to this primary emotion, then you can start to process it. Yeah, I feel really helpless, and that's really difficult. It's a really difficult thing to do. I'm going to go and talk to Johnny about it. I'm going to hash it out, and I'm going to organise my thoughts so that I don't end up becoming really, really angry and really, really rageful and end up killing someone. I don't know, Asda.
Waitrose, darling. Waitrose. I'm joking. But that's what I was saying earlier about relationships, what I used to really struggle with, because if I didn't have the answer, that was then seen, the problem in my mind is that I really like beat myself up. Like I'm very much like, you're a piece of shit. You're not good enough. You're not worthy. Like you can't sort this problem out. Like if one mistake happens at work, like even today, like it's been like this. We're trying to get us to like interview, and to me, it's like a personal thing. I'm like, fucking hell, like Johnny's here. This is going wrong. Like I start getting hot, and But that's I'm not sort of emotionally regulated, do you know what I mean, in terms of that. So I just go from like one extremity to another instead of having some middle ground where I'm actually like, right, let's think about the situation. You haven't got the answers for this, but maybe if we try this, or we can speak, like you said, speak to someone about that. That's where my problems lie. That's where I go from 0 to 100, and that's probably why I then did drink a lot, because it was just like I didn't know how to deal with that middle ground.
Thing is, it's about choice, isn't it? And a lot of the time when we present ourselves with choice, what we do is we ignore the option that we don't want to do. And quite often what we struggle with is doing nothing. But doing nothing can be a choice. You know, so in that time, you have technical problems and you feel helpless, which can make you feel angry, make you feel annoyed or whatever. And actually, there's nothing for you to do. So the thing is to choose to do nothing. So don't go, well, I'm just going to sit here because there's nothing I could do. But instead, every part of you is going, I need to solve it.
I was literally sat like that. So I'm like, come on.
There is no solution. And it's like that with clients. What if your solution is to listen? What if that is the solution? What if I come to you and I've got some really awful stuff that's happened to me, and actually all I need you to do is not solve my problem, not give me answers, not give me solutions, is just to listen so that I can organise my mind and start to rationalise and spiral in towards a solution that only I can have. Because I'm the person that's got all these people in my life, and I'm the person that's living my life, not you, me. So if you try to solve my problems, you're doing it from your point of reference, which is all of the experiences you've had, all the values you have. And we might have similar values, I would say we probably do, but there'll be ever so slightly different. And that ever so slight difference can start really small here, but gets really big here. You know, so that's why it's important. So actually, by listening, you are part of the solution, because they might go away and say, well, it was that conversation we had earlier that really helped me understand it. When I said that to you, I didn't realise I felt like that. And now I do know I feel like that. I know what to do next. But that takes a little while.
But it's communication, and that's something that's so important, whether that's friendships or that's relationships. And that's something that I've struggled with, like communicating, because I always used to think that I'm not going to tell you my problems because you've clearly got enough problems, and I don't want to burden you with even more problems. So I'll just sit in the background and I'll just listen to what you've got to say, but I'm not going to communicate with you how I'm feeling. And you can only tell that only goes one way most of the time. And that's something that I need to work on. Like I need to work on letting people know how I feel, and if I'm not comfortable with something. Do you know what I mean? I
think sometimes when you're that person that everybody perceives as somebody that has solutions, or somebody that's good to talk to, or is a good listener, or is a problem solver, or is a helper, you like that, don't you? And we've established through conversation today that you like that feeling. Right? So every time that happens, you're going to go, yeah, I feel validated, and that's cool. But I had a client once. He gave me the best example of why, and it's in his words, why men don't talk. And he said that every now and again, his wife will go shopping and she'll call 5 minutes before she comes home, and she'll say, just about to rock up with some shopping, can you come out and give me a hand with it? And he'll be looking after the kids. And they'll go out and the kids will take the little bags, the little tiny shopping bags, because they can't carry the big bags, and he'll carry all the heavy stuff. And he says he does that because he doesn't want the kids to feel the weight of the heavy bags. He doesn't want them to hurt themselves when the handles cut into their hands. It's his job to protect them and to make sure that they don't have those things and drop stuff and make mistakes and all those different things. He said the last thing I'm going to do is put that burden on them. And I think that's what men do. We feel that we need to protect, that we need to be strong, that we always have to be together all the time. Now, that's not the fault of women. That women aren't saying that's what we need to do.
No, of course.
That's just what blokes put on themselves. And they bottle it all up, and they have to be the strong one all the time. And exactly as you said, I don't want to burden my wife with my problems, just got enough problems of her own. I certainly don't want to burden my little kids with them. Oh, and Johnny, he's got some stuff going on, he doesn't want to listen to my problems, so I'm just going to keep it to myself. Then I'm going to start to come up with my own solutions in my head, which are obviously going to be about avoiding any pain. So instead of looking into the problems and trying to rationalise as well the problems, I'm going to avoid all that. Do you know what? I quite fancy a drink. This is crazy up here. I need to make it away, right? So yeah, I found that to be a really good analogy of why men don't talk. And it's like, it's a real analogy of like, carrying those heavy bags. And that's it. You can only carry so many bags before it all goes wrong, doesn't it?
No, for sure. No, until you sort of, but it splits. Shit everywhere.
Yeah, you've got chaos.
What made you get into self-development then, and helping, others, and setting the podcast up and being like a beacon for men like myself to sort of listen, watch, learn?
I never picked it. It picked me, man. I've always been this person, and it wasn't until, interesting enough, I was a PT before. I was a PT for like 15 years, and I remember it was my 40th birthday, and my kids bought me a hammock. And at the time I was drinking, so I was sat on this hammock in the sunshine, drinking a beer. And I was having this feeling for a little while that I wasn't happy in the job I was doing. I was helping lots of people lose weight and all these different things and gain muscle and go and do competitions and stuff. But it wasn't fulfilling me, and something just felt wrong. So I was looking through all my reviews and testimonials, and loads of people have said really lovely things on, but what was interesting is I know that I'd helped them all achieve their goals and lost weight or gained muscle or done well in these competitions. But no one said anything about that. All they were saying in these reviews was, Johnny helped me with my mental health. Johnny helped me feel my confidence. Johnny helped me with my relationships. And I was like, wait a second. Like none of this is going in. And I had this epiphany, like maybe I'm not a PT anymore, and I think that I wasn't very confident as a kid. My dad taught me that I was worthless as a kid, so I never thought I could be a psychologist. I never thought I could be a coach, and I didn't even know what coaching was. So I chose and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, I chose the way that I found easiest to get into the helping industry, which was personal training and fitness. And then over time I started looking into different things, and I watched a video about coaching, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I did my qualification, and then I started helping people, and then I started talking about different things on self-development, and they started there, the self-development coach. And I'm not an authority. I don't know everything about self-development. I am working it out as I go along. I am learning at the same rate as everyone else. I am that guy. I'm a geek. I will sit and, like, my wife thinks it's hilarious. Some of the books on my bookshelf, she's like, wow. I'll read it. I love it. And I'll pay really decent money to travel and to go and sit with people that know more than me and all these different things. And I love it. I absolutely love helping people. And like I said at the beginning, that education I have is paramount. It's that foundation, but it's those experiences that allow me to be able to be helpful to other people. I get told all the time they're scared. I had somebody send me a text message this morning, and I read the text message and I went, something's wrong. There was something about the cadence. So I text back, everything okay? And I'm like, how do you always know? But it's something that's turned up in me. As a kid, I had hypervigilance, because I was in danger, and that felt like a curse, because when me and my wife met, we'd go out and I'd hear everything. I'd hear the whole room, like be up on full volume. And now I've managed to harness it. And now I can sit with you and I can hear what you really mean. And I can sit the way you're sitting. You know, some would say that this is a very defensive stance.
This is ex-wrestler over it. You know what I mean?
But like, it's about understanding. You know, it's about listening, and you know your problems. You know how you feel, and sometimes you're just working it out. You know. So
did you find that a lot of your clients did drugs and alcohol? Is it the biggest prevention from people developing as individuals?
Food is.
Really?
I would say food is.
Wow.
A lot of the time, people would come to me as a PT and they would say that they want to lose weight. And I'd say, okay. And I'd say, why? And they say, because I'm fat. I'd be like, right, okay, I don't love that. And then so they said, but what's driving your decision to, I hate myself.
Wow.
Okay, so you hate yourself. Yeah, I look in the mirror and I grab myself and I hate myself. I hate the way I look. So that's your drivers, that's your motivation. So when it gets really difficult and your friends call you on a Friday and you want to go out and you've got to make some tough decisions, I hate myself is going to be your motivator. No. And actually, that body weight you've got, what if you're not unhappy because you're overweight? What if you're overweight because you're unhappy? You know, and it's like people comfort eat. Like I've got this thing I talk about. People talk about self-sabotage. You know, and it's prevalent in addiction. So addiction could be related to alcohol, could be drugs, could be food, could be sex, could be gambling, could be anything, right? Shopping, online shopping. And people go, weight loss is a good analogy because it's a visual thing, right? So I just start to get where I want to go in life. I'm just starting to lose weight. I'm just starting to feel okay about things. I'm starting to get to that goal I wanted to do. And then I self-sabotage every time. And what I believe is happening there is I don't think self-sabotage is very helpful. How is that helpful? Why would you do that to yourself? You wouldn't. Actually, what's going on is you're self-soothing. It's your only known way of doing it. So when you feel like you're out of control, your way of soothing yourself is alcohol. That's your chosen method. That works for you, so you do it every time. What we need to find is another way of doing it. An example of it is if you are horrible to yourself and you call yourself a fat person and that you're fat and that you know how to be fat and everyone calls you fat and everyone, your mates are mugging you off and all that sort of stuff, right? And then you start to lose weight. And all of a sudden people start giving you compliments and you're like, oh, don't like that. Now you've got to change your clothes. You've got to wear different clothes because your clothes don't fit, And you're walking around losing weight and you don't know how to be this person that you're becoming and you're starting to feel uncomfortable. You're having an uncomfortable feeling which is causing anxiety. So you're now feeling uncomfortable because everything feels unfamiliar and familiarity creates comfort. So what are you going to do? You're going to go back to what's familiar.
That's so true.
Which is eating again. So you're not self-sabotaging. You're finding a way to comfort yourself because you feel uncomfortable about the person you're becoming because you don't know how to be that person. You know, and this is where we, again, them 4 stages of behavioural change, you need to have awareness of that is what is happening. Oh, here I go again, self-sabotaging. You're comforting yourself. And your only known way of comforting yourself is to drink alcohol. So if you need to feel comfortable, what else can we do? Can we do something else instead? And until you become aware of that, you're never going to ask yourself that question, which means you're never going to choose a different option. You're just going to go straight for the one that you know, right? So now when you start asking yourself those difficult questions, you can go through the stages of behavioural change. You can go, okay, my awareness is me being sober makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know how to go to these social events without alcohol. Okay, so where can I take some accountability in this situation? Well, I can't answer that for you. You have to answer it for yourself. What do I need to accept? Okay, I need to accept I'm not going to drink. And that is going to be uncomfortable. And I'm going to have to be okay with that uncomfortableness. And then my actions, well, what thing's going to put in place? What tool's going to put in place? Well, I'm going to call a taxi for 10:30 because most people turn into idiots. You're starting to put those things in place. And it's the same with food, you know. If you go out with your friends, so we're blokes, right? And you're losing weight and you're doing really well. You've been really heavy for a little while and you've decided, you've had a bit of a bad run, you've been really low, and now you're starting to lose weight. And then I ring you up and say, we're going out for a curry on Friday, right? And you're like, okay, cool. And we're going to have some beers. Okay, cool. So now what you have is that you turn up and all of your mates are all similar, right? We're all a bit heavier because we're all drinking and eating together there. And then you're the only one out of your friendship group that decides they're going to lose weight. We all turn up, we're all still a bit heavier and you're starting to lose weight and we look at you and we go, oh my God, Look at him, he looks amazing. So what do we do? Do we tell you that? No, we mug you off.
Yeah.
Look at you, you think you're better than us. Well, you can have a salad. And we start getting on you about it. We start taking the piss out of you until you cave. Because then you make us feel better about it. So, yeah, I knew you couldn't do it for long. Good lad, come on then, have a beer, have some more curry, all that sort of stuff, you know. And what have we done? Well, we've shamed you. We've shamed you into going back to your old behaviour, which makes us feel better, you know.
It's fucked, isn't it?
Yeah,
think about it.
That's what happens. And that's why, as we move through our sobriety journey, that it's very possible that we might have a different relationship with people that were previously really important.
That's so true.
And if you knew that beforehand, you might not have picked to do it. But the thing is, self-development is like a stairway, right? And if you get higher up the stairway, it doesn't mean that you're any better than anyone else. It's just you're just higher up the stairway and you've got a different perspective. But as we climb higher, we start. Actually, a better example is: have you heard of the story of Plato's cave? Have you heard of that? And there's this idea, I might butcher it, but I'll get it.
Yeah, I still believe it. I don't know. You can make anything up. It's a galaxy far, far away.
The idea is like Plato and the whole group of people, and they all live in a cave, right? And for their entertainment, they got the flickering of the fire on the wall, and that's what they look at. They see all the lights, everything they drink and eat, they find in the cave, and they think that's life. And they're all happy with that because that's what they accept, that's all they know. And then one day Plato goes exploring, and he finds an opening. And he looks at the opening and he sees the rest of the world. And he's like, oh my God, there's a waterfall, there's woods, there's food running about, there's things growing on trees. This is amazing. I can't believe it. Look at this is life. We've been in this cave all the time and actually it was all out here. So he goes running back in the cave and he tells everybody. Scares the crap out of them. They can't see, they haven't seen what he's seen. They haven't experienced what he's experienced. All they're hearing is this ranting and it's terrifying and they tell him to shut up, stop being so ridiculous and stay in the cave, what are you doing? You're scaring everybody, stop it. And in that moment he's got a choice. He either steps outside and stays alone, away from all the people that he knows and loves, but he knows this is real, or he goes back in the cave and he pretends that what's outside
that never existed,
just so he can fit in with the crowd. And that's what happens with us when we become sober, is that we have a choice. At some point, we've got to say to ourselves, this friend isn't good for me. They keep trying to make me drink. Now that's not because they're horrible, it's just all they know. And let's be fair to them, they've always known you as a drinker.
Exactly, yeah.
And you're the one that's changed. You know, they've not changed, they've got no inclination to change, they don't want to change. You've changed. So now you've got to make a decision. I need to leave my friend and stop going out with them all the time. I don't need to be horrible about it, but when they ring me, I'm not going to be able to go because all they do all night is tell me, oh, you're boring now.
Yeah. Well, you're better than us, do you know what I mean? Like,
that's difficult. That's really, really difficult. Really, really difficult. And a lot of people don't make it through that situation. They cave because it's easier, it's familiar. They know what to do.
It's comfortable as well, isn't it? They know what they're going to get through. They've done it for years. They know what the expectations are of their friends.
Sit back into that groove. But to do something brave and go, I'm not going to go out tonight, or go out, realise halfway through the night what's going on, and go home, that's really hard. You know, but they are the decisions that you have to make. But what's beautiful about it is that I'm in London this week, right? And I'm on a couple of podcasts, and I'm meeting up with some amazing friends. I didn't know these people 2 years ago, but they are some of the most important people to me in my life. And I only met them 2 years ago. I never knew that was going to happen, but that's what sobriety gave me.
So, Johnny, as we finish up the interview, I'd like to ask the guests what their zero hero is. Very cheesy, I know. But what is your zero hero? What is your 0% alcohol drink that you like to sort of have when you're on a night out, whether that's at a party or you could be at a wedding, or what's like your go-to?
I will drink non-alcoholic beer. I have to make sure of it, and I always like it to be in a bottle because I don't trust it when it turns up in a glass. The thing on that is some people can do that, some people can't. You know, but I'm someone that can. And mainly in the beginning, I did it for other people because me drinking a lemonade, and they go, "Oh, do you not drink?" And they go, "No," and then that whole thing starts. So if I've got a non-alcoholic beer and I pour it into a glass, people leave it alone. But I like Brooklyn's Special Effects.
Nice.
That's a nice beer. But most of the time, I'll just have lemonade. I remember early doors when I stopped drinking. And the person I was working with, I said, like, how are non-alcoholic beers? Can I do that? Can I not do that? He said, if it causes you to feel any conflict at all, don't do it. He said, if you find that it triggers you or anything like that, just don't do it. But try it, see how you get on. And I said to him, yeah, I had like 2 or 3, but I couldn't do what I did before, you know. I said, I don't know what it was. I had 2 or 3 and and he says to me, wasn't thirsty? And I was like, it makes perfect sense. I wasn't thirsty anymore. Because when you got the alcohol, it's just drinking.
Yeah.
Right? You put up with it before because you were drinking alcohol. Now you're like, I just need to win all the time. This is
that's it. You come away with just the bloat, but like not feeling pissed. You're like, this is shit. Like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I know, mate.
So when he's in that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, mine's probably Brooklyn Zero. I don't mind that alcohol-free Leffe as well. I tried the wines, which was used to be my alcoholic drink of choice, but they haven't quite.
Nah, I'm still trying to. There's actually a shop at the end of this road called the Soda Club or something. Yeah. They do all sorts in there. I haven't been in there yet, but yeah, you might.
There's some good options, and it's fun to explore and stuff like that. But I'm quite happy most of the time just having a lemonade, you know. Or my thing that I'm concerned about cross addiction here is Fanta Lemon. It's like, oh my God, Fanta Lemon's good.
Or on your holiday, Fanta Lemon. That's a naughty drink. That's your favourite. Johnny, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Sorry about the mishaps earlier, but it's been fantastic having you on, mate. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. But yeah, that was episode 1 from season 2, and I hope you enjoy it. Please like, share, and follow, and I will see you soon. Take care.